So I found some old notes for, I guess it's going to turn into like a research project or something, maybe. That never happened. But nothing here is intended to have ever been published. It was just basically me writing stuff down, kind of finding ideas. The idea here was kind of building up an idea for my own view on how language works. So, going around seeing how other people think it works and poking holes in their ideas, pretty solid way of going about making sure that you're not completely full of shit. Still, just mostly. I'm fine with being. Really, I'm fine with either. I don't expect anybody to necessarily believe me about anything, and that's fine. I'm me, you're you. I believe what I believe, you believe what you believe. That's how it's always been. It's fine. Anyway, yeah, so I'm just going to kind of start reading from this one spot on adjective ordering. So that's in sentences like the big blue car, right? Big and blue are both adjectives, and it's weird to say the blue big car, right? So there's kind of one of the orders is better, right? Big blue car is better than blue big car, and that's kind of all they're talking about right here. There is a paper. I will try to link to it. I think it's still up. This was like 9-10 years ago, but yeah. Anyway, it starts off with a quote from this paper. Adjectives are generated in the specifier position of dedicated functional heads, and the order of these with respect to each other is a principle of universal grammar. What? First off, what? What the? What is that supposed to mean? That is not a sentence that is understandable to, I think, anybody. And worse, it's not actually saying anything. Adjectives are generated in the specifier position of the dedicated function heads. Okay. Okay, that all that means is that adjectives modify the thing they're attached to. Because the head would be like in a noun. The dog. That's the head of this structure. Big dog. Okay. We can't just say big, but we could just say dog. Really this is all that's saying. And the order of these with respect to each other is a principle of universal grammar. No. Okay, so universal grammar is this idea from Chomsky. I get told by like mathematicians and people who don't know anything about linguistics. They're like, "Oh, but isn't that not? Nobody cares about that anymore. That's old." Well, no, it's still. Chomsky's still alive. He's still, he's still sitting on that throne. It's not going anywhere for a while. He's got a lot of dedicated peeps. Yeah, but as far as this goes, this is just a claim that so there's some weird ordering things. That must be UG. This is a God of the Gaps sort of argument. It's like, well, we don't know why sunsets are beautiful, so it's got to be God. We don't know why the adjectives are ordered in a special way, so it has to be UG. It's exactly, formally identical argument. There's something you don't understand, so UG. Proves it. That proves it. And my note after this is not a useful hypothesis since it doesn't actually say anything. Oh, we haven't even gotten very far. There's a couple pages of this. I'm not reading that. Alright, there's some examples of stuff. Okay, I do have a comment on here. This is me thinking, and I'm not even sure because I haven't read this yet. I'm reading this on camera, so for the first time in probably 10 years. So I might disagree with myself. It's who knows. There's a point here that looks like it might be interesting. This is me talking. It is not a quote from the article. Note that if there is a UG of any sort, I didn't think there was. It does not grant humans the ability to produce and comprehend language. So this is kind of what I just outlined. Probably from a different. I was thinking about it in a different way, I'm sure, but just basically like so much of language can be explained with just the mathematics of it. It has to be the way that it is, or it wouldn't work. So the only things that are mysterious, that's the only thing you can attribute UG to, universal grammar. Which is, probably make a whole thing about that. Okay. All it could possibly do would be to constrain the form of language, right? So all it can do is control these tiny little things. Like the fact that there is language has nothing to do with UG. Like that is already at this point in my development of my ideas, I had come to this conclusion. Like, well, UG can't give us language. That's I can get into some more detailed arguments about why, in another video. But so as in the case of AOR, adjective ordering rules, which in my opinion does not qualify it for the designation of UG, since the definition of the term is the genetic endowment which gives humans the ability to learn and use language, right? So basically we have a term that is supposed to mean something that it cannot possibly mean. And it is being used in this paper by this author to as a way to escape any sort of explanation or any sort of real explanation of anything. We're just like, oh yeah, here's a thing we don't understand. It's UG. Bullshit. In this event, any claims about UG become claims about a UG of the gaps. Okay, so I had definitely. And then there's a link to the Wikipedia article on God of the Gaps. Nice. Okay, so then there's some data. McKinney-Bock, Katy. It's a citation. Attributive versus predicative logic in non-intersective adjectives. What the fuck? Okay, so there's some with attributive, and these they're marked for grammaticality. So, in this like formal approach to syntax from Chomsky, and this is a legitimately very useful and good contribution I think that he made, or his people made. So if a sentence is good, right? If a native speaker would probably say it, then you just write it out. It's fine. If it's kind of questionable, maybe not all speakers are okay with this, or like you understand it's understandable, and maybe if you're kind of confused or something, like you would say it, but it's not given a choice. It's not the way that you would really prefer to say it. Then you put a question mark in front of it. And if it's just nonsense, if it's just garbage, like me want apples, that gets a star, an asterisk in front of it. So in this data, there's only one that has a question mark. So for the attributive, that is a big butterfly. Perfectly fine statement. The one with a question mark, that is a big butterfly for a butterfly. I'm actually pretty okay with that sentence. And then so they take kind of a simple sentence and they're kind of growing it. So the first one, that is a big butterfly. That's the short, basic, simple one. And then they're growing it out to, that is a big butterfly for a butterfly. And then the last one is, that is a butterfly and it is big for a butterfly. Yeah, the first and the last one probably, totally fine. The middle one, that is a big butterfly for a butterfly. Slightly odd, I suppose. I'm pretty okay with it. Okay, and then the next one, predicative? Predicative? Whatever. That butterfly is big. Okay. Oh, okay. So these ones we're taking the adjective, and instead of just sticking it to the noun, we're putting noun is adjective. That's what predicative? That's what that is. That butterfly is big. This is a simple one. That butterfly is big for a butterfly. So this is supposed to correlate to the attributive with a question mark. So, which was, that is a big butterfly for a butterfly. And there's claimed that that's odd. And the good one in the predicative, that butterfly is that butterfly is big for a butterfly. Which, yeah, I agree, that one's definitely fine. And then the full-blown one, that is a butterfly and it is big for a butterfly. It's exactly the same as the full drawn-out one for the attributive. So there is a scale at which apparently these converge, according to this. I don't know. Anyway, I don't really have any problems with this so far, but I don't see that it's proving anything. Oh, yeah, and I commented that I personally don't have a problem with the questionable production. It's marked fully ungrammatical in the source. Oh, so the question mark was me. In the article, they said, no, this is trash, and nobody would say this. So already, I guess I do have problems. Okay. So those were non-intersective adjectives, whatever that means. Okay, so now we have some data with attributive versus predicative logic of intersective adjectives. Attributive, that is a green plant. Okay. That is a green plant for a plant. Yeah, I'm not even sure what that's supposed to, that one's definitely bad. That is a plant and it is green for a plant. Okay. I mean, I guess it's weird because kind of I define green based on like the greenest plants, so that's what green means to me. There's a color of plants. So this is odd. And then predicative with an is. That plant is green instead of that is a green plant. So the next two have a question mark. That plant is green for a plant. And the last one is the same, but for both. That is a plant, and it is green for a plant. Okay, whatever. And then I note the questionable productions here all imply an intensified meaning for green, as in that plant is very or too green to be a plant. You're right. So that's what it's supposed to mean. I don't know. Let's see, I think we get to a point somewhere here. Yes, I think it's this next one. Motivating the WH operator. So that's going to be just turning shit into questions, right? So, like, that's a dog. What is that? That sort of thing. And, oh, yes, in the philosophy of this formal syntax, the sentence is more primitive than the question. So the question form is derived from the sentence, the statement. I take issue with that. I don't agree that makes sense, but yeah. And you can't get into an argument with any of them because they will casually talk about it that way. But as soon as you because I've done this many times. As soon as you actually call them on it, they'll be like, "Oh no, it's just like metaphor." Like, dude, you've been fucking saying this straight up. In paper after paper after paper, you've been making this claim that it works this way, that the sentence originates the question form, that the question form is derived from the sentence form. But when I call you on it, citing evidence, you don't believe that, like, and you never did. And then immediately after we have this conversation, and this has to be a closed door conversation, of course, private email or in person, face to face. But like, we can't have this conversation in public. You're being mean then, right? No, I have problems. I have problems with this. Okay, so that's all this is. We're turning a statement into a question, right? That's a dog. What is that? That sort of thing. Okay, so here we have a question. How long of a dress did she buy? And you could answer it, a very long dress. It's fine. Or you could answer, a short dress. Okay. Okay. And I think the point of this one... Yeah, because the next one is going to... So here, in the question, we use the word long, right? How long of a dress did she buy? And in the answers, one of them uses the word long, a very long dress. The other one does not use the word long. It uses short, a short dress. And this next one, it's meant to mirror this pattern. And I think this is why I included this in this whole thing, and the rest of it was just kind of, like, I had very small problems with it, but this one I have. This is the one that I remember having big problems with. Okay, so the question here, this other question, how red of a dress did she buy? So instead of how long of a dress, how red of a dress? So one of the answers could be a very red dress. Fine, that mirrors a very long dress. I agree with that. That one's okay. But then this other one is marked as nonsense, as garbage, right? So the question is, how red of a dress did she buy? And this garbage answer is a yellow dress. And that is meant to mirror a short dress. Now the problem that I have, and this is a published paper. This is a published scientific paper in linguistics that I just pulled off the internet. I was not looking for this at all. This is not cherry picking. It's just I was looking for things talking about adjective ordering because I was interested in, what was happening there, what's going on mathematically in the structure of it. So I just randomly found an article, and when I read it, I had issues. Okay, so kind of on the surface, it seems like they match, right? How long of a dress did she buy versus how red of a dress did she buy? Seem to be similar. A very long dress, a very red dress, seems to be similar. And so far, I agree. Those are... Okay. But then a short dress versus a yellow dress. The problem that I have with this is that short is a length. Right? Short. That concept lies within the larger concept of length. And the length is, you're talking about how long something is. So how long includes short. Short is an option you can pull out of that category. Whereas how red, yellow is not an option you can pull out of that category. This is why it fails. And in the article, she does not talk about it that way. She talks about, well, because short is different from long, and yellow is different from red, these should be exactly analogous. No, short is a type of long. Yellow is not a type of red. So let's see, what did I say? Note that this is set up as if the right and left are following the same template as they go, starting with a question of the form, how X of a dress did she buy? Okay. Followed by an answer of the form, a very X dress. Right, so, how long? Very long. How red? Very red. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. And finally, a question of the form, a Y dress, where Y is related to X, right? Like short and long are related to each other, yellow and red are related to each other. Now there's a problem with this example that the author does not seem to notice. And that is what the specific relationship is between X and Y. On the left, we have a case where Y is a subset of X, right? Short is a category within long, right? So, like, for instance, if I said, how short of a dress did she buy? And you said, a very long dress? That would be weird in kind of exactly the same way that how red of a dress you get the yellow dress, right? It's a possible answer. Like, somebody could say this, but you're, like, the respondent is very clearly saying, nah, dude, you're dumb. It's not red. It's yellow. Or, no, dude, it's not short. It's long. Like, right? Like, it is a thing that native speakers could do, but it's kind of an aggressive. it's not the nicest thing that a native speaker could do, right? It's not. We're not playing along with the format that the questioner set up. But if the questioner says how long and you say short, you are playing along because short belongs to the category of long. Long does not belong to the category of short. It doesn't go that way. So if they say how short, you cannot say long and be playing nicely. Just like you can't say how red and yellow. So, yeah, you're not playing nicely. That's kind of a dick answer. Yeah. So on the left we have a case where y is a subset of x, since short is a degree of length. But on the right we have a case where y is a subset of the superset of x. Right. So yellow is not a type of red, but both red and yellow are a type of color. So there is a relationship, right? Color, there is a category, color, where red and yellow both exist. Yeah. So x and y themselves are disjoint, right? They're separate from each other. Y is not inside red, red is not inside y, or yellow. Yellow is not inside red, red is not inside yellow. That is to say, the category structures seem to have been cherry-picked by the author in order to make their suggestion sound better than it actually is. Note what happens when we play fair. And this is actually what I said. I'm just reading what I said. Okay, so if we take the question, how red of a dress did she buy? And then instead of saying a yellow dress, we say something like a maroon dress. Suddenly it's fine. Because maroon is a kind of red. Even if you have problems with this, like the way colors are set up in your head, I feel like you're probably going to be like, yeah, maroon is a much better answer than yellow when we're asking how red. This now works just fine because maroon is a subset of red. I mean, it might be for you personally, they might be disjoint, but you're probably, even then, probably what's happening is you have like red, like super red, like this kind of red, like red. And you're contrasting that with maroon, which is not red. It's another, it's muddier, it's not as bright, it's right. But then you have a category of red that you kind of just like, hey, it's a red, like red wine. Why is it called red wine? It's purple or maroon in color. Well, yeah, because that's the category of red, not the color red. Okay. Yeah, so now this works just fine because maroon is a subset of red, just as short is a subset of length. Also note what happens here. And so, yeah. Going to the question of how long of a dress did she buy? If you respond with a tight dress, that doesn't answer the question at all. That's like, how red of a dress did she buy? A yellow dress. Actually, it's probably worse than that. But yeah, how long of a dress did she buy? A tight dress. Yeah, suddenly it's nonsense. It's, right, that's a dick answer. Like, you're trying to say something else by saying that. Alright, this fails because tight is not a subset of length, just as yellow is not a subset of red. So the proper template would be, so now we have a question with 3 possible answers for both, and each now has a bad one. So for the long, the first three, the question and the first two answers are exactly the same. I just copied and pasted from the article. So the question, how long of a dress did she buy? A very long dress, a short dress, and then the bad answer, a tight dress. And then for the red, how red of a dress did she buy? A very red dress. This goes along with very long dress. A maroon dress. This goes along with short dress. And a yellow dress. This goes with a tight dress. We're asking how long the dresses are, and we're saying very long, short, tight. Tight is nonsense. Short is okay. Very long is fine. How red? Very red, maroon, yellow. Right? So these match up perfectly now. Very, very long, very red. Short maroon, and yellow tight. Now there is both no class difference between the adjectives and no syntax sensitive to it. We cannot build honest models of syntax on top of dishonest data. Yeah, and then it goes into kind of what I was saying earlier. Long is thus a headed semantic category, as is red when we consider it with respect to maroon. So, yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm actually taking... This was kind of just me being a dick about this. Taking aspects of Chomskyan treeing of sentences, right? The way that they think that it's structured, and they also think that it's unique to language. So I'm taking this thing. I'm like, hey, so no, we actually do this in the way we form categories in our mind. This is how we form categories. This is normal. So just like you can say dog or tall dog when tall gets added to it, and so dog is the head, you can say it by itself, and you don't lose much, right? You lose a little bit of detail, but it's very clear what you're talking about, right? Oh, look at that dog. Oh, look at that tall dog. Unless there's 40 dogs over there, dog and tall dog probably referring to the same thing pretty obviously for everybody. Like, you don't lose anything. It's kind of the same thing here. So we've got these two sisters. So it would be like red and maroon or long and short. And they're inside another category. And the name of that category is the name of one of those two things. So red, but red, like maroon, is inside the category of red. Right? So the red, there's two levels. There's an inclusive level where, so the category of red refers to red, and like maroon, that's kind of like this guy. That's red. That's super red. Where is it? Super red. Right? There's a few things here that are red, but there's far fewer things that are red. Right? This is exclusive red. This and this is inclusive red. So, and that would be, I don't know how the camera's picking it up, but it's definitely maroon in real life. And the author of this thing is going out of her way to try to make points about some magical thing in your brain that lets you speak language and learn language, but she's being dishonest about the manipulation of the data here. For this reason, we can say, how red is it, and get back maroon, or get back, it's not red, it's maroon. Right? Both of those are fine. Right? When you say how red is it, and somebody says maroon, they're looking at the inclusive category, the whole big, like all of the reds. That includes Mechanical Engineer's Handbook by Lionel S. Marks, 4th edition. It includes that color. Or, if you say how red is it, and you get back, it's not red, it's maroon. Well, now you're looking at the exclusive sense, where the listener interpreted red to mean this, and this is not this. Like that color, those colors are definitely different, right? So saying this is not red, it's maroon. That's totally fair play, because this term it doesn't have two meanings. It has one meaning, but it's at two different levels of specification. And this is actually extremely normal for words, for terms, in every language. And it trips up linguists like you would not believe, because apparently nobody ever talks about it. Whatever. Or how big is it? And you get back either small or it's not big, it's small. Right? Because small is a degree of bigness. Big is not a degree of smallness. It doesn't go both ways. But small is a degree of bigness. It's like you can do this with most adjectives. Possibly, probably not all of them, but honestly, I can't. That doesn't mean anything, but I can't think of an example right now. And then we start going into some other stuff. So yeah, I think that was it. Okay, yeah, so then this is getting into some other stuff, but in categorical terms, this is me talking, this is not a quote from somebody else. AOR, adjective ordering rules, seems to represent a sort of abstraction continuum. Although it is a safe bet to assume that languages will tend to discretize the continuum into a hierarchy, and that they will do it somewhat differently, it is notable that this sort of discretization will generally have little or no impact on ordering. In principled terms, ordering should be primarily an artifact of data structure traversal anyway. So Cinque's UG is plausibly just basic, elementary really, computer science. Wow, I love that. Yeah, so kind of the idea here, and I should probably be wrapping this up, but kind of the idea here is, so we can see how in your head these data structures work. We kind of showed a little bit that, you know, one term can actually operate at two different levels, right? This one is including everything below it. You know, it's an upside down tree. And it's kind of like, it looks like the roots of a tree, or the roots of a plant, right? So if you're higher up, then it kind of controls the things that are down below it, right? So you've got like a triangle. There's something at the top, and then there's the two corners at the bottom, right? So red lives at the top, and it's one of the other corners, but we're reading it based on how high we are. So that top one includes maroon, and the bottom one contrasts with maroon because they're at the same level. And you have to, you have memory, right? You have the ability to learn things and to categorize things and to structure things somehow in your brain. I don't care what part of the brain is doing it. I don't, the details of how that is happening, it's irrelevant to this. But somehow you are structuring information in your mind in this sort of a way. And when you speak, you necessarily have to be, your brain has to somehow be traversing those structures, be going through it somehow to find the different words. There's no other way you can do it, because you have to be able to find them in memory. Which means you're going to have to search for them in memory, which means you're going to have to go through the data structure in memory. So the shape of the data structure is going to matter. So really kind of what I've gotten to at this point is a very solid lead on an argument that even this crap, even the ordering of adjectives, where this author tried to plug in UG as a god of the gaps. Even here, it's probably just elementary computer science. It's just traversing a data structure. We don't need any magic. It's... Anyway.